Anadarko, Huntsman, CBI. And with them comes lawsuits. And with those lawsuits, it has to come to our court system here in the county. Now, I've been very capable of handling all these cases that I've been handling. Huntsman was probably one of the biggest $8 billion lawsuits. But CBI was 1,200 asbestos cases. These are big cases, and it takes somebody who knows what they're doing to handle them. I do. The Ninth District Court is primarily a civil court. I still do criminal work of first, second, and third degree felonies, which are your more difficult cases. First and second degree felonies are your murders, your rapes, your aggravated robberies, your aggravated thefts. But last year I was only assigned 180 of those cases. And we do this by voluntary agreement among the judges. Last year I was assigned 2,000 civil cases, not family, not criminal. 2,000 civil. I disposed of 2,500 of those, or about 20, maybe a little bit less than that. On the criminal, I disposed of more than what was assigned to me. So there's no backlog. But the difference is this, is that to be able to handle massive tort litigation, you have got to have experience. And I think I talked extensively about the e-file system that I've developed over the years that is now spread into nearly all courts, all federal courts anyway. So I have a lot of experience in trying cases, and I like what I do. I don't want to be on the Court of Appeals. I don't want to be on the Supreme Court. I want to do exactly what I'm doing because I'm good at it. And I can move a case, and I can get things done. I'm a very firm believer in my oath. I'm only good for one oath at a time, and that is to uphold the Constitution and the laws of this state and the laws of the United States. And that comes first. And I am bound by precedent. So, you know, some things like my opinion about abortion is really irrelevant because I'm going to follow what the law is. And I'm not going to create new law for myself. I think that that's inappropriate. But anyway, I'm here to answer some of your questions, and feel free to shoot.
Okay, who has the first question for Judge Edwards? Sharon?
When I was reading your questions, number 9, we were talking about.
Do you have an extra copy? I don't have it in front of me.
I'll get you one.
Thanks.
Anyway, it was about this what government welfare services should be provided by your jurisdiction and how the funding level and the sources of each should be determined. In your end of the year, talking about court-appointed lawyers, and it sounded to me like you thought that we've got some now that are getting paid too much. Is that correct? You're court-appointed for those who can't pay for themselves, but it almost sounded like in your answer that you thought some of the lawyers were being paid too much.
Well, I think that's why I have an opponent, because I've been very vocal about indigent defense. And this county is spending $6 million on indigent defense. And counties twice this size, like Plano. They spend half that amount. They spend $3 million. Harris County only spends 11. We're going toward that road. And I am very vocal about this, and I have really offended a lot of criminal defense lawyers who are making a bundle off this. We've had lawyers making $100,000 a year, doing nothing but indigent defense. And, you know, so, I mean, two things have to be done. One is we have to raise our standards of what is indigent so that these people will go out and get their own lawyers. And the other one is that we have to stop paying them so much money. The problem has just escalated over the years, and to the point that lawyers come to me who do criminal work and say, I don't have any business because everybody's getting free lawyers. I mean, we're hurting. It's a truly a system where the sense of entitlement has embraced itself in that profession, in the criminal defense bar. And I've been very vocal against it. I have asked that we adopt a plan that would probably cut that in half.
I guess I was misinformed somewhere. Somewhere along the line, I had the impression that this was kind of like a volunteer.
Oh,
that every lawyer did a little bit every year.
Oh, it was like that 30 years ago. It ain't like that now. They're all in it for the money. And why not? We're just giving it to them. I mean, we're just like handing it out. They have no control, they're all subcontractors, they have no one managing it. What I have proposed is a management system, what's called a case management system, that's now allowed by statute, just this year, went into effect. And a case management system would try to put a stop to all that. Would use law students to help with interviewing, would use young lawyers to be mentored by older lawyers. It would try to instill back that sense of duty that we have as professionals to give back to our community, which is the way it used to be, and it's not like that anymore.
Okay, I was gonna say, what you were describing is what I remember years ago.
I think we all knew at a time that we would be appointed, to help out with cases, and basically it was that concept of pro bono. We're doing this for the good of everybody, and not anymore. They whine, oh my God, they're worse than the whiners than I could possibly describe to you. Every time the judge starts talking about cutting back on their fees, they have meetings and they whine and they complain.
Okay, Mr. Gavalas, you have the next question.
You had mentioned in your answer about moving the public records out of the district clerk's office. Could you elaborate a little bit on what efficiencies that would accomplish? And what would it take, would that take a constitutional amendment? Statewide?
I'm in favor of abolishing the office altogether, because they're not professional people. They run for office and they're not hired and they're not responsible. The district clerk can do whatever she or he wants to. The district judges and the county court of law judges have no control. While in other states, they've abolished the district clerk system, California did, for instance, and replaced it with professional people who get their degrees in this type of movement of information. And you get, what you get is, we don't know why we do it this way, because we've always done it this way.
Mm-hmm. What, other than a more professional step, what other efficiencies would you see coming out of that?
Well, I think you'd have a better file management system, more modern systems. Paper is the king. If you can eliminate the paper, then you shift the power from the clerk's office back to the judge's office. And I think that if all of it was mandatory, that all our courts, we've got 2 district courts that don't e-file. You know, we have 2 that do. We have 2 that do civil cases and they don't e-file. And they do it the same way it's been done for 30 years, 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, who has the next question for the judge? Okay, my turn. I was curious. Maybe it's obvious to others and not obvious to me, but how do you dispose of more than 100% of the cases that are assigned to the court?
How do I dispose of more than 100%?
And I quote, this is a 130% disposal rate.
Right. What it is that I have certain cases are pending at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, I have less cases pending than I started with.
I thought you said you had no backlog.
That's what I'm saying, I don't have a backlog.
Okay. So the only way you can do that is if you start with a backlog.
Oh, well, we all start with backlogs. So now, it's not a backlog. I mean, a backlog would be is where I'm getting more cases than I'm disposing of. Then I'm going down, I'm in trouble. But if, we all have, here's what happened on these cases, and maybe it might help a little bit. I thought I explained that, but in 2008, it was the end of the career for Judge Stovall, and she didn't want to do civil cases anymore. And so she came to me and asked if I would take her civil cases. And she would take my 4th-degree felonies. 4th-degree felonies are mainly drug cases, there's plenty of them. So I transferred about 125 cases to her, or 150, something like that. And she transferred 1,200 to me. And so there's your backlog. And what happened is that at the very same time, we were getting drowned in small cases, personal injury cases that won't settle anymore because of tort reform, and insurance companies won't offer any money, and so we have to try. And we tried different things to do, and so finally, as the senior district judge, I said, all right, I'll take them. And the other 3 different courts, the 410th, the 284th, and the 359th, transferred all of their pending cases under 100,000 to me, and that was about 1,500 cases. So in a very short period of time, I had 3,000 cases pending. So yeah, and what we had to do was convert them to e-filing because all 3 courts were non-e-file. Then we had to set, docket control orders on each case, and you know, and I had, you know, and I'm not criticizing my fellow judges, but, you know, we had lawyers calling up saying, listen, I've had motions pending in here for 5 months in one of these courts. You know, can we get a ruling? And so, I'm a real believer in specialty courts, and I think that by putting all those cases together in one bag, then they were easier to manage. So I guess, yeah, it depends on how you want to define backlog, but to me, a backlog would be is where I'm getting assigned cases and I'm not getting rid of the same amount.
Who has the next question? Let me go to another one. Mr. Caballos.
I'll take another. What percentage of your cases end up being jury cases? Or any kind of feel you can give for...
It depends on how you, I'm not too sure what you mean actually trying it to a jury, or
Yeah.
you mean actually, or how many people have asked for a jury?
Now, how many actually go to a jury trial?
Well, I try about 28 jury trials a year in my civil cases, and then you add on the criminal. The criminal is kind of a drawback because I give them 2 weeks out of the month on criminal cases and 2 weeks for civil, and of course that didn't balance. But the criminal cases are important. You got to move them. The only way you can move a felony criminal case is to try it, because those cases are so severe. You know, they're not able to negotiate them very well. So, and I think sometimes getting the threat of a jury will make the defense lawyers, you know, either make the defense lawyer either come to an agreement, or it will make the prosecutor offer a better deal that they will accept. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right.
Can I have another one?
Okay.
I get the feeling you really love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why? What is it about it?
I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing when I ran in 1992. I defeated an incumbent. You know, his name was Coker. You know, Lynn Coker. His father, Ernest, had been on that same bench. He'd been on the bench for 17 years. His father held it since World War II. And I was unhappy with what, you know, my calling. I mean, I was a, you know, a father of 3 and a husband, and with providing for them, but I just wasn't very happy. And you know, my family's always been in public service. Both my parents were teachers. My brother was a county judge in Montgomery County and state rep in Montgomery County. The only reason he's still not is because he wouldn't switch. I kept telling him he needed to switch parties, and he wouldn't do it. He didn't listen to his little brother. He lost in '86. But you know, I don't know, I just felt like it from the very moment I put on a robe, the very first day, that this is what I was meant to do. So I'd rather enjoy it. Okay, and it's a bad day today, guys. I've been in the middle, this is the second week of swearing in. It's tough.
Okay, we have time for one more question, Mr.
Okay,
Burley.
you mentioned it briefly. Have you always been Republican, or, I know your brother was Democrat, but have you always been Republican, or what?
I started voting Republican when Ronald Reagan ran.
Before that, you were Democrat?
I was against anything, I was too young.
Oh, okay.
Oh, come on now.
Well, let's just put it this way, I couldn't possibly bring myself to vote for Carter, and I couldn't bring myself to vote for Gerald Ford. So I don't even remember if I did. I tell you how I became a Republican. It's kind of an interesting story. My brother took me to a Democratic executive committee meeting, and his wife was the head of the Democratic Party from Montgomery. I went there and I left, and I'm like, Jenny, this is the biggest bunch of yahoos, idiots I have ever heard in my life, infighting among themselves, talking trash to each other. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. And I was in law school, I think, or just out of law school. And that's why I switched to the Republican Party. It was organized, and the Democratic Party, they were just, that's all I'm going to say.
That's why I asked you a question, because I know your brother.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as
I got a
always,
question down here.
we'd love to have more time, but we have run out of time. When, to be fair to the next person on our schedule,
Thanks. All right, guys, thanks for having this, and I'm sorry if I'm a little bit slow because I'm a little under the weather today.
well, thank you for coming and spending some time with us. We realize that is a commitment out of your busy schedule, and especially when you don't feel well, so thank you very much.
James Nowak.
James Noah,
If Brian is still out there.
come on in.
Grab you a seat, Peter, there's a couple left.
I like a full house. I can set up more tables.
Much better. Rough good work. If you didn't have one there.
Y'all are CCMC members, you wanna come front row?
Yeah.
This is James Nowak.
Hello, folks.
How are you?
Your 16th